The directions say to simplify. Example A, we have 42 over 49. Well, first we need to factor these values. So on the side of your paper now, go ahead and factor 42. Hopefully you arrived with the same factors of 2, 3, and 7. Keep in mind the order does not matter. Now we need to factor the denominator, which is a 49. So again, do some side work on the side of your paper and factor 49. Hopefully you arrived at the values of 7 and 7 for 49. So now that we have the factor trees completed, we're ready to rewrite the fraction in factored form. In the numerator, instead of 42, we are going to write it as 2 times 3 times 7. And in the denominator, instead of 49, we replace it with 7 times 7. We clearly see the factors, which means we are ready to reduce this fraction if there are any common factors that appear in the numerator and the denominator. And if you notice, a 7 appears in both the top and the bottom. Well, 7 divided by 7 is 1, so those factors reduce to a value of 1. They do not cancel. Instead, they reduce. However, notice in the top, the numerator, we still have 2 times 3 times that 1, and in the bottom, we have 1 times 7. Since there's no other common factors, this cannot reduce any further, so we're ready to put the fraction back together. And we do that by multiplying the remaining values. Again, in the top, 2 times 3 is 6, and in the bottom is 7 times 1. Let's look at another example. Example B, we have the fraction 88 over 20. We are going to follow the same steps. On the side of our paper, we need to factor the numerator, which in this case is 88, and we need to factor the denominator, which is 20. Go ahead now and pause the video and work on your factor trees. All right, let's see how you did. Hopefully for 88, you ended up with the factors of a 2 times 2 times 2 and times 11. And then for 20, I hope you ended up with the factors of 2, 2, and 5. Now that we have the factors, we simply rewrite the fraction in factored form. So again, in the numerator, in no particular order, we should have 2 times 2 times 2 times 11. And in the denominator, we should have 2 times 2 times 5. Now we're ready to reduce, so we look for common factors that appear in both the numerator and the denominator. Notice there are 2's in both the top and the bottom, so those values reduce to 1. And notice there is a second set of 2's that appear in the top and the bottom, so those reduce to a value of 1. However, there are no other common factors, so we multiply the remaining values. In the numerator, 2 times 11 is 22, and in the denominator, 5 times 1 is 5. So your simplified fraction is 22/5. Let's look at another example. For C, we have the fraction 7 over 25. In this case, the values are a little smaller, and you probably feel a little bit comfortable with factoring these values. First value is 7. Can 7 factor? No, 7 is prime, so it remains a 7. But in the denominator, we have 25. For 25, the values we think of are 5 times 5. Since both the numerator and denominator are factored, we're ready to see if we have any common factors. And if you notice, 7 over 5 times 5, well, it kind of has nothing in common, which means this cannot reduce. Again, since there's nothing in common, we put it back together and we say the fraction remains 7 over 25. In other words, it's already in its simplest form. Another example, example D, this time we have 18 over 90. Just like the previous problems, we need to do our factor trees and completely factor these values into their prime factorization. Pause the video now and try this on the side. All right, for 18, I hope you ended up with the values of 2, 3, and 3. And for 90, I hope you ended up with the values of 3, 3, 2, and 5 as your factors. Which means when we rewrite the fractions in the numerator, I have them in the order of 2 times 3 times 3. In the denominator, I have it in the order of 2 times 3 times 3 times 5. Now we look to see if there's any common factors in the top and the bottom. Notice 2's appear in both the top and the bottom. Another set appears, in this case being 3's appear in the top and the bottom. And there's another set of 3's that appear in the top and the bottom. However, there's nothing else they have in common. So we're ready to find what our reduced fraction value is. In the top, 1 times 1 times 1 is just 1. And in the bottom, 5 times 1 is 5. So our reduced form is 1/5.